Graceful amber window.
Hi, welcome to Once Upon Stitch Nook and my desk where the creativity happens. Let's talk The Game of Wool, Episode 3. So, we are on the third episode of the show, and I watched it last night and took down some of my notes. Also, I took the feedback from someone who said I really should make sure I know the names before talking about the contestants, and I do agree, and I did uh, make the effort to do better this time. So, I hope I'll cause less confusion, which I certainly did before. So let's get into it. So my first initial thought from the opening of the first challenge and the episode in general was, again, they are implementing crochet while calling the contestants knitters or having best knitter as the tagline and doing a very convoluted job of interchanging crochet and knit as if it's expected generally that these crafts will go together or you can do both. There isn't kind of clarity that these are definitely different skills, very distinct from each other. Um, and again, they could have just done it as a fiber arts show. Tom Daly himself can do both, and I don't know about the other ladies. I'm assuming they can, but I'm not sure because they are able to critique it to some degree. But framing it that they found people who have both those skills, and so it's also more understandable. Okay, they came in and hoping to rely more on their stronger skills over the other, but they're coming in here trying to be the best knitter, but they are being judged on their crochet skills, which will inform if they are becoming the best knitter. And again, the crochet works well for this kind of show because you can work faster, you can work um, bigger pieces, you can work probably a lot more in this kind of format than knitting, which was a lot of people's, and mine included, questioning of how that were they going to make this show for knitters and what kind of challenges could they pose to make interesting television and also showcasing knitting. And they're using crochet more and more. Um, so more, I see them using it as a crutch to the knitting because they realized the knitting was problematic, but they didn't change the framing of the show to be the two skills are both in this. And so the best fiber artist, they could have easily fixed this and spared me the annoyance. Um, I'm just personally having a lot of a pet peeve with this framing in particular. And so, yes, so it, again, could have been easily dealt with. And so I tried to talk myself down through the episode to disregard the framing more and just reframe it for myself of what they actually are doing rather than what they say they're doing. But that being said, I have not achieved peace with this notion. I still kept getting frustrated throughout the entire episode due to it. But that is a me problem, so I thought I would spare you that grievance for the most part and just get it out in the beginning so we can talk a little more strictly about the challenges rather than the crochet aspect of it in regard to my frustration. So there's that. So on to the first challenge, which was the individual challenge, and it was glam swimwear, and the garments were supposed to be fitted, somewhat functional, and you could use knit or crochet, and there had to be this glam, this wow element to them. Had to fit the bodies well. Tom's peers from his diving um, career came to be the models of it. So, and this entire episode was very like beachside water swimming focus. So this was very much like a Tom highlight episode, which that's cute and fun, and I see why they kind of wanted to do something focused on him. Um, but I have to say, as I mentioned in my episode 2 review, I wasn't looking forward to the swimwear idea. In general, I don't like yarn being used for crochet outfits cut in the way that you can do like overtops or halter tops or like the cup, crochet cup pieces. I don't mind so much. They're cute, and I see them more as kind of um, fashion adjacent to it, or if you do kind of mesh cover-ups or things of that sort. Holger kind of emphasized that this was really much more of a pieces they were making for to be modeled, not to be really functional in the water, because who would want to go in the water with that? And I concur, Holger. I do. So I wasn't keen on, the subject matter, but I was like, okay, but again, I wasn't keen on the dogs. But I have to say, I was kind of underwhelmed in general with the results in the process. I wasn't crazy about the choices. But it was so hard. I was kind of also thinking a bit, I was like, okay, but what would I do to make something, wow and cool with this? But I was like, maybe it's just because I don't care. Made it hard for me to use my imagination in this area, but I was questioning some of their decisions, why they were doing it that way. But again, maybe they've never tried making such fitted, little briefs and bottoms. Um, so it probably was quite a challenge. So anyway, and a highlight for this was that they had to be glamorous. And so in general, I think it's a bit of a challenge to make swimwear glamorous. I think it's often that you can use sleek material, maybe in certain colors or gold or things like that if you wanted to be glamorous swimwear, right? But I think it's even harder with uh, yarn fabric with knit or crochet, because I find knitting often isn't necessarily glamorous in a kind of runway style unless you're going extra. So for me, I think you need extra fabric to work with, extra gathering and drape. It's something kind of unique to it that it doesn't just look like a sweater. It has to look a little more like something you would design if you were going to sew. Lots of embellishments. And so while certainly you can embellish, and they try to embellish their swimwear, it's hard to necessarily say that it achieves glamour. I think it can be cute, it can be chic, it can be other things, but to hit the glamour is quite difficult, and I would have found that difficult, and certainly the contestants did struggle with it. Um, and so I will say I was very proud of Lydia for she kind of mentioned that she's kind of gone from 0 to 100 by needing to start designing. So she hasn't really been a designer before. And so taking that in, I'm very proud of how well she's done this far. And she did very well in this episode with her designing skills. So she's really improving in that. And so I was like, oh, good on you then, Lydia. I didn't realize that was the case. So that was really cool to see. Her piece was well structured, and I love that she kind of utilized knit cables. And the judges gave her the kind of thumbs up. They really liked her piece. She did a little mesh crochet, I think, to it as well. I thought the mesh looked a little odd, but the judges liked it. But overall, I was impressed with her design skills to make it fit so well and also look like a decent design. Elsa's was my favorite. It was the most distinctive with the best color choices, I think, for hitting something that would hit glamour or hit more eye-catching. She used these vibrant, I think it was like, oh, I forget what she was, it was a reference to, but, like in Italy, the sword style with the diamonds. I'm forgetting it. I'm so sorry, and I'm not going to look it up. But they were in like red and green or something, red and blue. Beautiful, like these diamond shapes for the top to bring it down. So I found it very distinctive. She had just a few rough edges to it, but other than that, I thought that was the best piece overall. The judges commended her for it. She did well in their eyes. So good on Lydia. Simon, again, likes to draw upon architecture. And so he was doing like um, he pulled in they were all kind of utilizing vacations they had gone on to be inspiration for them. And he chose a Disney, and I think it was in Paris, but I forget. It might have been another one, maybe Japan, I forget. But he was using, I think, the Cinderella castle. So he was pulling the colors from there and was trying to incorporate Mickey Mouse ears, which honestly just ended up being circles. So I don't think he quite thought that one out. I felt bad for Simon. I don't think his design skills executed very well this time compared to last week, where I mostly liked his um, architectural sort of cathedral looking design, where this one did fall flat. It had some bagginess to it. He kind of had to rush and lace up the sides in a non-polished way, so I felt bad for him, and he kind of got the from the judges. Stephanie wasn't able to finish her beach theme, so she was going to kind of do like little beach scenes on her outfit. So she had the two bra cups on top, which were going to have like a palm tree, I think, like a sunset or something on the other side, and then the sea or on the bottom with the waves. And so once she got to the embellishment parts, due to spending so much time trying to get the bottoms right, um, it was, for one, the colors I think were too washed out to pop well, and she just kind of had these few bits in for the and a very poorly done palm tree. Oh, and she said crochet is not her thing, and she wanted to push herself out of her comfort zone to try um to do that. So I feel bad because her like freeform crochet wasn't good, I think. And again, it was rushed at the end, so I'm not going to completely judge her on that, on her skills. It could certainly just be a time thing. But it didn't turn out that well. It was just kind of bland, and the judges kind of voiced those thoughts. Then Tracy tried for like this white gold piece, which I thought was a good choice for going for glamour. And then she wanted to add like fuchsia flowers to it. And the original design looked like she was going to have a lot more flowers. And she didn't end up with as many, as well as the fuchsias just were kind of okay flowers. And the judges didn't find that they looked like fuchsias or exuded that glamorous fuchsia look. So that was kind of, and I think the fit wasn't that great on the bottoms again as well. So the bottoms were definitely a weak spot for many people to hit, and understandably so. There was kind of this odd bunching, so she kind of got a from the judges. Isaac struggled with glam, and he kind of openly said so. He was doing kind of a rock climbing theme. So, you know, kind of more on the masculine outdoorsy side, so that's hard to make glamorous. And he chose poor colors to do it. He had sparkly pink letters, I think it was, pink or peach kind of sparkly letters on the back of the bum area, which I think he should have gone for gold if he was going to do that. But didn't really uh, give the glam. It was and then he wanted a matching pouch since they needed, if they were doing the men's bottoms, they needed to do accompanying kind of accessory or item. So he chose a completely different, more fun color palette for this little bag sack. I forget what he called it, but it was like for gathering or carrying your things with you. That seems to be a rock climbing term, but he wasn't able to finish it, so it kind of was just half a bag in the end. So poor Isaac didn't get high marks for that one. Then we have Holger, who did kind of this his classic, you know, simple and classy take. So I think that helped him hit kind of a certain glamorous, chic look in the judges' eyes that was well designed. The bottoms were kind of simple, but in a well structured way that it had enough interest that felt different. And then he did this mesh over top tank top that added a good look to it that I think he could have even gone a little bolder with a color for it to match the bottoms. I think he just went with a dark, maybe blue or gray color. It was something dark. But overall, the piece went well together, so he did well. And I found it quite stylish, but I was kind of questioning, is it glam though? Again, very classy, but is it glam? I don't know. Judges thought so. They found it, the mesh helped make it sexy. Dipsy did a decent top, but had a weird sort of bottom bit. She really struggled there. And her style, which is really overly simple, I think, to stand out at all. Goodness, my voice is going. Can you tell? I'm feeling very raspy at this point. I may need to take a minute here in a bit. My main critique in seeing in this episode, it's been pointed out before, but I really felt it this time, was how the judges, you only get a clip of them having a 1 or 2 sentence critique or assessment. So it's either kind of, that didn't work out, did it, or oh, I really like that, this or that, and then that's kind of it. And so we don't get a full comprehensive. And again, it wouldn't have to be comprehensive, but I would like a little more, a few more sentences in. So that is an unfortunate thing with the editing, and they do have clarified that they have given thorough feedback. So I would like to see maybe that released somewhere else, or something like a more extended appraisals or insights into the pieces. That I think that'd be great, because I felt as an audience member that the things I was observing, I was hoping that they would address or point out or talk about, were just ignored. Which I'm sure they weren't. I'm sure they did mention them or talked about the kind of construction or things, or how that ended up that way. But due to the editing, you give very, very little by then. I would actually probably wish they would shorten down the making process to give a little more time to the judging process, because there is kind of that whole build up for that, and then it feels like just bam, 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 it's done. So I think it would actually benefit to have it a little longer, and maybe again you could dramatize it more by doing it that way, instead of it being over so quickly. So, that's unfortunate. Now, and who did the best there? I forget. Well, I kind of went over what the judges thought of each person. And so I guess my favorite of the bunch, yes, was Elsa's. So that was, I found, again, it was underwhelming in general for me. It was fair enough watch, but I didn't find myself getting excited about this challenge. The next challenge was better. But for me viewing it, I found it a little more exciting, a little more interesting to watch the design and developing process. And they were to specifically fully crochet. Crochet was the requirement, a deck chair. And it was a fair enough kind of idea of a challenge. I liked the idea of the challenge, but again, note that you could only use crochet. But I think they particularly wanted it to only be crochet because they brought in a special judge. I think her name was Jenny Crow. That's what I wrote down. And she is a crochet designer. They mentioned her work has been worn by Justin Bieber. They showcased her beautiful work. She was wearing this beautiful, beautiful uh, dimensional flower shawl piece, I believe. So I was kind of excited for that. I was like, okay, well, again, as a crocheter, this is interesting to me. We'll see what she has to say about things. But interestingly, I didn't find her insights that, exceptional for me. Again, I can crochet, so maybe it wasn't for me, but sometimes, yeah, so, that could just be a me thing. Sorry, my dogs were kicking up a fuss. Um, so yeah, it could have just been, I would love to know your thoughts on what she said. And something I also, again, would like to hear your thoughts on, because I didn't understand what she meant. When they were asking her what kind of stitch do they think would be appropriate for a deck chair, so obviously you don't want it to have much stretch, much give. She said the densest stitch would be a double crochet. And hope that they wouldn't do a treble crochet. Now, I understand we often go to double crochet when we really want to build up a decent height quickly, but is it the densest stitch? I understand, like here I'm using double crochet, right? And it doesn't stretch really that much itself. But I find when you build double crochets on top of each other, that space where they're joined tends to stretch and gape quite a bit. Um, and again, if I would say that to say the densest stitch maybe that they should be considering, because they need to work fast, because there are other stitches than just the single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet. There are stitches that those stitches are put into to create a stitch, right? So those could create denser, but I understand for the sake of time they were going to stick with something simpler. But of the simple stitches, do you think double crochet is considered the densest? I don't know. Let me see. Because I don't know. I would have thought if because when I want dense material, when I don't want kind of the stretch and give and holiness, and that again that the stacks stay close together, I would do a single crochet personally. So I was confused by that comment. So if anyone has better insight into what that means or what your experience has been with that, do let me know. I was curious about that. Let's see. So let's go over the designs and teams. So we had Stephanie and Dipsy, and they went for like a cocktail um, deck chair. So they were going to attach a cocktail with an umbrella in it, and I think they added a pillow, which I think was a good addition. They used a very chunky yarn, and they were relying on granny stitches. So like 2 double crochets, chaining space, which Jenny Crow had mentioned that that probably wouldn't have done well greatly for a deck chair, as well as it's a little of a safe go-to for crocheters. So again, design-wise, she was hoping they would do something else. As were the knitting judges, they said they hoped to see something different. Um, and it could have worked well if the design was maybe better, but they did do a somewhat poor execution of it to the point that judges initially thought it might have been a fish and not a cocktail, and outlined harshly the umbrella in black, which I thought turned out fair enough. But I think I would have then outlined everything in black to keep it cohesive. It stuck out so much. That was the most distinctive part where the cocktail lost a lot of itself and the shaping wasn't amazing. And again, Stephanie had the crochet, which is not in her comfort zone. She said she wanted to push herself in the previous one by trying to crochet more instead of knit. Um, but I think since she did poorly in that one, she wasn't able to rely on knitting for this challenge to help save her um, from falling further and struggling further, to rely on her usual skills. So I felt bad for Stephanie in that regard. And Dipsy is a crocheter, so this is kind of in her wheelhouse, and she was getting very stressed and emotional over the thing. I actually had a hard time following exactly what was her line of thought. She didn't like when they had to cut a piece. But considering you used very big yarn, I personally wouldn't have found such an attachment to the piece. Since they were so big, they worked up quicker. But I don't know. I don't know kind of what happened there. I feel like there was some missing footage to give more context. So Elsa and Simon, they decided to do a very clean design of little beach houses, beach huts, and did a nice scene where you went from the sand to the water, and I think there were seagulls and some other like a decor. They did like a beautiful job with the huts where they added the little lifesaver and did a nice finish on doing like wrapping the yarn to hold it in place, making it look very clean and neat. And the stitching they used the shell stitch. I think it was on the sand, or was it on the water. I forget. But they mixed up the stitch type to give it good texture and design, and it ended up in a very clean look. There really wasn't any negative comment to be said about it. Oh, and I should say, we're also going to get to the point that you have the design aspect and, of course, the functional aspect. Can you functionally sit in this seat and will it hold up your weight? So Tom was going to be the one to sit in these pieces to check them. So we'll come back to that later. Holger and Elliot were teamed up. Not Elliot, I'm sorry, Isaac. Holger and Isaac. And they did a chips in a bag and then a background of stripes. And they were the only ones to choose a thin yarn. And so their design came out and popped really well. It was a very clean design, and I was amazed they finished in time. I thought that was going to be their sinking point, but they did finish it, and they did kind of a beautiful job. The only note on the design was since they split it up in the middle, and they had to rush the join, you could see the join of the two panels, and particularly once you got to the grid part. But not too bad, not too bad. And I've thought the design was great and really up Holger's lane. I think he liked being paired up with Isaac, who likes to be creative, but is also can be more on the simpler design opposed to when he was paired with Stephanie, who wanted embellishments. So when he had mentioned stripes, I was like, okay, yeah, I can see Holger liking the stripe idea instead of a plain background behind the chips. So anyway, then the last team is Tracy and Lydia. So they went for doing kind of a lacy stripes instead of long ways. They went horizontally, and then they wanted to add flowers kind of around the edges of the chair. And so considering, oh, they didn't do a bad job, but it was just kind of, again, more a matter that they didn't have enough time. They didn't have as many flowers as the at least sketch design that they showed us was going to have. So they kind of had to sacrifice some of that. The join job was rushed, but the lacing was very nice, and so I thought that kind of stood out in their piece. And so theirs, we'll go over who's held up. So Tracy's and Lydia's work did hold up, so they were safe in that regard. I want to say, was theirs? I think theirs held up the least. No. They held up well. Stephanie and Dipsy's, who did the cocktail, theirs held up less, but still held up. So they did all right in that department. Elsa and Simon's did hold up. And the only one that didn't, that Tom's bum went all the way to the bottom because of the stretchiness of the thinner yarn choice, and that they chose treble crochet later in the design once they got to the bottom. It just really stretched, and he went all the way to the bottom, so they did not pass on that mark. And let's see what my notes say. I watched the episode kind of once for the viewing of it, and then a second time for my like notes. Okay, and so that's kind of the assessment for and the end results of what oh, and I forget how they placed them. They placed, let's see, the hut one by Ailsa and Simon came in first, and I think despite that theirs held up, but the design was, I guess, kind of that poor, and I did agree with it. Stephanie and Dipsy came in last, followed by Holger and Elliot in the fourth place, and of course, then you have Tracy and Lydia. I think we're second place. I hope I have that right. This is something I didn't quite write down fully, so I'm trying to recall from memory. So despite that, I understood they had to get penalized for it not holding Tom's weight. I did think it was such a good design in the end, and that I really didn't like Tracy and Lydia's execution. I'm so sorry. It really looked kind of like a kid's project in a way. No offense to them. I think they wanted to play with the chunkier yarn, and Stephanie isn't, I think she had to do the cocktail itself. So it just, again, crochet freeform is not her strength. So all the love to her. And so when they were deciding who was going to be cast off, it was really coming down to Stephanie and Isaac. And I was really nervous with this. Simon was kind of tossed in there as an option, but he was mostly penalized for his individual challenge, where he did very well on the group challenge. And I didn't think his skills were as poorly done this episode as, again, his swimsuit option wasn't that great, but the accessory piece came out fine. It was kind of like a bag that you have a strap that goes across your chest. I forget what it's called. They didn't note that much that I recall. I think, again, the editing didn't include it. They were mostly pointing out his poor shorts. So again, I didn't think he was in danger. So it was really coming down to Isaac and Stephanie. And I was nervous because I love them both. I love Stephanie's like cheeriness, just that bubbly personality, kind of she's so delighted to be there. She's so delighted by it all. And so she's such a joy to watch and have kind of as part of my crochet downtime when I'm watching the show. But I really didn't want to lose Isaac yet. I want to see him a little further into the show because I really appreciate his design skills, and I particularly just appreciate when he is a particular kind of man that I like to see in the fiber arts, and I wanted to see kind of more of him. That he's so chill and relaxed about it. Where Holger, takes it very seriously because it's adjoined to his. I think they said his profession was he is a tailor, and so he takes it very seriously. And then we had, oh man, Gordon. Gordon was the first one who was cast off. Um, he had a nervousness about his craft in public that he's older and he gets kind of the comments about it where I like that Isaac made a point that he's able to brush that sort of thing off and he's just enjoying himself. And so I wanted to see more of that energy and more of him, at least for a little bit longer. I don't know if he'll make it to the end. Um, but I didn't want to lose him. And so, spoiler alert, Stephanie is the one who got cast off. And so, while I was really sad to see that go, I did heave a sigh of relief that it wasn't Isaac yet. So, I was happy with that end result. And Lydia was the, what do they call it? Not best knitter. Is it best knitter? Yeah, I think it's just best knitter or something. And it got the sheet badge, as Tom uh, does all the funny puns. And so I thought that was well deserved. She did a good job on her individual challenge and did all right in the, what's it called? The group challenge. And so I think that was well deserved. Very good for her. And she was just like, even if I'm, cast off next week, I can know at one point I did the best. So that was I think, well won and deserved achievement. So, less controversial feelings on this episode. I'm kind of getting into the groove of it and just not nitpicking it as much. And this time I didn't have such. Personally, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to be scouring everyone else's thoughts on this to see if anyone found something very erroneous about this episode that I missed. If you did, do let me know in the comments if you saw something that I haven't touched upon that was just unacceptable. I feel like this is the one that I just found the most bland, I guess. It viewing wise and also in the controversial wise, I didn't have anything to um get myself worked up over as much. Again, the crochet still bothers me, but it's still fun to see, so I don't mind it. It's more that how they frame it just drives me crazy. Um, But again, unlike with Fair Isle, where they got a lot of things technically wrong, unlike the judge's assessment with the dogs, which people pointed out that one shook its head each time and one didn't. There were kind of some takes on that. And what was the other thing? What was the group challenge that time? You had the dogs, and then you had oh yes, the sweaters, which I thought was fantastic. So viewing wise, that was so fun to watch the sweater challenge, and there was a little bit of controversy about how things were dealt for Meadow with the decreasing. Someone pointed out actually the other Ace Elsa should have decreased the other way because of how the graph was. Meadow couldn't really decrease on that side, otherwise it would cut into the graph. So I was like, oh, I didn't taken note of that. So that was very good to see. And so people found that was unfortunate to see. And then, of course, we get a pattern that comes out after each episode from the yarn company who's sponsoring the place. And I think that's fine. That's well enough. And people have pointed out that it seems most likely the contestants have signed away their rights to the patterns, whether that is for a certain period of time while the buzz is all aflutter and the prices are crazy high for these kits, patterns and kits for these releases. It isn't going to the contestants, which I understand. But people are saying, and again, people understand the legalities of it, that yes, this was consensually given away, but we can still have issues that is part of the contract. We would like that they were compensated at least to a degree, in part or something. Or even if that is the case, what I do take issue with, and many others have pointed out, is that they say the contestants who designed the piece have been properly credited, fully credited. And I take issue with the note fully because they just say their first name in the reference of the kid to who it is, which again, I think it helps to identify which contestant because we mostly know their first name, but not their, full name, not their user handle. So again, fully, I don't think they fully credited them because you really need the context of the show to know who that person is. And then on social media, they are not tagging the people that the contestants have to repost it on their page to make people aware that this is my design. So yeah, that's kind of an issue that is something we can talk about. I haven't seen which kit has come out now, so I'll probably look around after this to see what that is all about and see what everyone has to say. I'm sure people have already gotten on their videos and put them out there, so I'm going to edit and post this, and then I'm going to look at what everyone else is saying. So, and certainly want to hear from you guys. We've had some good discussions and thoughts and perspectives on this show, so definitely want to hear what you think of this episode. So I think I have rambled way too long, and I'm going to sign off now. You guys have a great day.